Hello Internet and welcome to this day in history for the 12th of October. Now, there are several things that have happened today, but there are specifically two holidays around the world that are somewhat interesting. The first, which I'm not going to be talking about, is actually in Bavaria, where the first Oktoberfest was this year, but I might get back to that in the video for next year. More specifically today, I'm going to be talking about the fact that it's also Columbus Day, i.e. the first day where Christopher Columbus' expedition made landfall in the Caribbean, specifically somewhere in the Bahamas. Now, Columbus Day has of course become something of a controversial holiday in recent years as the crimes committed by, well, Columbus and basically all of white men against the Native Americans in both the American continents have become more highlighted than anything else. But in this particular case, of course, we're just talking about events of historical significance, and there is very little doubt that there is few events of historical significance as much as Christopher Columbus setting foot in the Americas for the first time, with all this have led to over the last 500 plus years. Of course, most people at the time, just to get that out of the way, were quite fully aware that the planet was not in fact flat and you could sail over the edge. In fact, the greatest problems with Columbus's theory, as most people saw it, was that they in fact had a much better idea about how the world was supposed to be, rather than Columbus himself, who believed that you could sail to Asia from Spain by sailing west far more easily than you were actually capable of doing it. Most people who complained about his idea was in fact saying you're going to be starving to death because there's much longer than you think there are, not knowing of course that there was quite a bit of a landmass between Asia and Europe if going that particular way. Anyway, Columbus returned, of course, on several more journeys before dying a somewhat disappointed and, well, broke man, of course, after Spain refused to pay him the money he felt they owed him or give him the land grants that he also felt he had a claim for. In fact, the lawsuits between the Spanish government and Columbus' descendant dragged out for more than 100 years until finally settled. Of course, this basically meant immediately the end of a lot of native cultures. It also meant the rise of Spain and Portugal as colonial powers that were using the riches funneled in from the Americans to finance their wars and politicking throughout Europe, attempting to take over Italy and many others. But this is a side subject. Most specifically, what Columbus landing in the Americas did was that it opened the New World to Europeans. It opened a, for them, virgin landmass of immense property and immense wealth, and fueled its, not just its expansion, but the European imagination like nothing else you have ever seen before. It is not a coincidence that it took only about, well, less than a century from Columbus landed until the Americas were basically a European outpost in large part, despite a actually fairly powerful native tribal culture to oppose them. Remember that it took almost 1500 years for Europeans to truly get landfall in Africa. It took them 50 years to have destroyed probably the three most powerful cultures in the Americas. This was the legacy of Columbus, not so much the destruction of them, but the expansion of European ideals and European cultures on a global scale that stemmed from this fueling of the expansionist imagination of Europeans based upon the discovery of the Americans. And that was on this day today, on the 12th of October in 1492. I hope this has been of some interest to you, and until next time, I have been the Sage, and I wish you all a very happy day.